August 24th, 1814. The streets of Washington, D.C. are eerily quiet. The air is thick with heat. Off in the distance, the rhythmic sound of marching boots grows louder. By nightfall, the British Army, fresh from victory at the Battle of Bladensburg, will walk into the heart of America's capital. And before the next sunrise, the White House, the Capitol, and nearly every public building will be engulfed in flames. This is the story of the night the White House burned, a shocking moment when the young United States nearly lost its seat of government forever. The War of 1812 began as a clash over trade restrictions, maritime rights, and Britain's support for Native American resistance. But by 1814, the British had turned their full attention to America. Napoleon had been defeated in Europe, freeing up thousands of battle-hardened troops to send across the Atlantic. Washington was a young city, barely more than a few grand buildings surrounded by muddy streets and open fields. Most believed the British would target major ports like Baltimore or New York, not the unprotected capital. President James Madison and his wife Dolley Madison continued their duties, even as reports of British troops advancing from the Chesapeake Bay began pouring in. On August 24th, American forces met the British at the Battle of Bladensburg. What followed was a humiliating defeat. Poor coordination, untrained militia, and sweltering heat led to a rapid collapse of the American defense. President Madison was on the battlefield, witnessing the chaos firsthand. When it became clear that Washington was defenseless, he ordered an evacuation. Government officials, clerks, and civilians fled the city. At the White House, Dolley Madison refused to leave until she had secured critical state papers and a full-length portrait of George Washington. According to legend, she directed staff to cut the frame to free the painting, saving one of the nation's most iconic treasures. By evening, British troops marched into Washington unopposed. Major General Robert Ross and Rear Admiral George Cockburn led their men to the Capitol building first. They piled furniture in the chambers, poured gunpowder, and set it alight. Flames shot into the night sky, visible for miles. Next came the White House. The British dined on a meal prepared for the president, still warm on the table, before torching the residence. Government offices, the Treasury, the War Department, all burned. The inferno raged through the night, lighting the dark sky in a glow of destruction. Only a freak storm, possibly a hurricane, that struck the next day saved what little remained, extinguishing the flames and even spawning a tornado that tore through the British camp. When the smoke cleared, Washington was a ruin. The Capitol's dome was gone, the White House walls blackened shells. Many questioned whether the Capitol should be rebuilt at all. Some argued it should be moved to Philadelphia or another city. But Madison was resolute. The government reconvened, and within weeks, plans for rebuilding began. The burning of Washington became a rallying cry for the United States. Just weeks later, American forces would hold firm at Baltimore, inspiring Francis Scott Key to pen the Star-Spangled Banner. The war would end in early 1815, but the scars and the lesson remained. The Capitol was not untouchable. The night the White House burned was more than a military loss. It was a symbolic strike at the heart of a young nation. Yet from the ashes, Washington, D.C. rose again, stronger and more determined. And perhaps that is the legacy of August 24th, 1814. Not the destruction, but the decision to rebuild, to stand firm, and to keep the nation's heart beating in its chosen capital.